How's it going, everybody? Welcome to another segment of Halftime on the Hudson. As you can see, I'm talking to you from my dorm today, and that's because the campus got put on pause. But hey, you know what the old cliche says. The show must go on, and that's exactly what Halftime on the Hudson is doing. The show is going on. We got some great stuff in store for you tonight on tonight's show. We're going to be talking about the NBA trade deadline and how it's not really doing anything. Nothing's really happening. It's kind of moving a little slow. NFL free agency, of course. We're going to do Prove Your Point. We got some great segments lined up there with the tournament and the injuries going around the NBA. And not to mention, of course, as per usual, we're going to talk about marriage sports. So thank you so much for joining us today on a little bit of a different Halftime on the Hudson, right? Like I said, we're going to be coming from our dorms, but that's okay. Thank you again for joining us, and let's get right into it. So hello, everyone, and like I said, welcome to another episode of Halftime on the Hudson. I'm Connor Kurpat.
What's up, guys? I'm Zach Musso. As you can tell, I'm here in my basement because the campus is on pause because of COVID, but no better place to talk some sports.
Exactly. I mean, you got the basketball hoop right behind you. It looks like you're ready to go.
I do, yeah.
All right, well, let's get right into things. Zach, take it away.
All right, yeah. So rampaging the NBA right now is the star player injuries, and it's affecting the trade deadline and the MVP race. Right now, LeBron just a bad sprained ankle that'll probably keep him out a month, not to mention his teammate Anthony Davis, who his timetable is still uncertain. Kevin Durant on the east side in Brooklyn, he's out right now. Then I just saw James Harden's out tonight with some neck soreness. Kyrie's been out because of a family matter. And Steph Curry's now out with an ankle injury. So some big time stars are missing some time here in the NBA. And right now it's kind of affecting the pendulum with the MVP race because Joel Embiid was sitting at top for the time being. Then LeBron overtook him. Now the two candidates are kind of out and kind of wide open. Jokic is gaining some steam now. Harden's there. Dame's there. So it's swung the pendulum all over the league. The league is as wide open a championship race as it's been in my lifetime.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of crazy to see all these stars getting hurt because, like you said, I mean, the championship race is really wide open at this point. I feel like you can't really tell what's going to happen. But that also kind of makes it exciting a little bit. I mean, I feel like there's a chance now that a team that maybe doesn't belong into the playoffs might get a chance to do something. I don't know, surprise some people. It's kind of exciting to see, though. And like you said, this is really exciting time to be a fan of the NBA.
Absolutely.
And sticking with the NBA, the NBA trade deadline is coming up, and surprisingly, not a whole lot has really happened. Now, I feel like the NBA trade line's usually a pretty exciting time. We're seeing a lot of trades, a lot of players moved, especially come getting close to the playoffs at this point. And that's always fun to see how these players might mesh and help a team push and get farther into the playoffs that may not otherwise have been there. But like I said, not much is happening. It's kind of weird. Now, there's been a lot of rumors, right? There's been stuff about Lonzo Ball. Maybe he'll go somewhere. I've seen people talking about him, maybe the Bulls or the Knicks, I know. And, I mean, there's been a ton of teams linked with that. I've even seen Kyle Lowry, potentially people saying he might get linked with the Lakers, that the Lakers were interested. Aaron Gordon, too, has asked to leave. I've heard some people want Victor Oladipo maybe to leave. There's a lot of stuff. And I don't know. It's kind of interesting with all these players asking to leave.
Yeah, there's a ton on the board right now. The Lonzo one is the most interesting because he's actually in the best year of his career right now. And he looks like a piece the Pelicans could more build around. I know he's a restricted free agent, so somebody's going to offer him big money and they're probably not going to want to match it or anything like that. So getting something for him now makes some sense. And, I mean, really any team could use Lonzo. He plays perfectly. He's a very unselfish player, which will fit any system as a point guard. He can pass to your best shooters. He can set up your big men, and he can knock down the three this year. So that's interesting. I think the Kyle Lowry piece is the most interesting piece potentially on the board right now because he's really the one who could come in and kind of swing the pendulum. If he goes to Philly, like one of the rumors is Philly or Miami right now, he goes to Philly, him with Simmons and Embiid, all healthy as a formidable duo, especially with Lowry's veteran presence and championship pedigree to stop Brooklyn. And I also think the Lowry to the Lakers rumor you said right there sounds pretty cool, especially with the rumors coming out today about the Lakers willing to shop their third best player in Schroeder, Harrell, Caldwell Pope. There are other guys who really came in to surround LeBron and AD. Those sound like guys they'd only be willing to trade if they got a guy like Lowry.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that's something I kind of want to talk about too, is just the Lakers, right? And their willingness to shop a guy like KCP, or even I heard that they're considering Montrezl Harrell and Marcus Gasol as possible trade options if something comes up that they really like. And that Kyle Lowry option might be a thing because I feel like that's a player, like you said, veteran presence, championship pedigree. He's been around the league for a while, and he knows how to play. He's a great player. I feel like just having him there can maybe help the Lakers out, especially now that LeBron's hurt. Maybe add a little bit of extra ability to the mix, a little bit of extra experience to help the team out and get them over that hump. I mean, especially down the road, because listen, I mean, we know the best team in the East is probably the Brooklyn Nets, right? And a lot of people think the Nets are going to end up playing the Lakers. And having Kyle Lowry on your team is definitely going to help when you're playing a team with Kevin Durant and James Harden and Kyrie Irving. Just having that extra veteran presence is always going to help the experience. Yeah, and the buyout market actually sounds like it'll be big this year because Andre Drummond and LaMarcus Aldridge obviously have some massive contracts, but are both players who would help a championship contender massively. So Andre Drummond he would slide beautifully in with the Nets or the Lakers, and those are two teams you consider. Really, with the Lakers and stuff, we expect LeBron and AD will be back healthy for the playoffs. It's all about right now just getting them towards the playoffs because obviously with the new NBA play-in rules this year, you want to avoid the 7 seed. So if you're 1 through 6, you're locked into the first round, and that's really all that matters. Home court's not going to matter much with 20% capacity or anything like that. So you really just want to get locked into that top 6. So it sounds odd to say because it's usually about the playoffs, but for them, it seems like it should be about the regular season, getting them there without their 2 stars. Yeah, no, 100%. And that's going to be super interesting to see. And I'm excited to see if something happens maybe before the trade deadline fully closes.
Yeah,
again,
I heard Woj on ESPN today say that the league's a deadline league, so that you'll see a lot of flurry right before the deadline tomorrow. He said, especially with Aaron Gordon on the Magic, that he said that the Magic are probably going to trade him, and that they're kind of waiting and seeing, and that 3:55, 5 minutes before, you'll hear the deal because they'll accept the best offer on the table at that point.
Guess we got to have our phones ready at about 3:55 to see if we get lit up with all this stuff happening last minute.
Those Twitter notifications on, yeah.
Oh yeah, Woj, we got Bleacher Report coming in.
Oh yeah,
notifications, gonna be good stuff.
Absolutely.
Excited to see. And speaking of all these types of moves, right? I mean, we can't forget about everything that's going on in the NFL with all these NFL moves because there's been a ton of moves, a ton of stuff, right? A lot of people, winners, losers, all that. One of the teams that kind of surprised me a little bit and maybe even impressed me was the Patriots. Their moves have been pretty not Bill Belichick. Let's just put it that way. Not very Bill Belichick-like. Bill's never a guy that's made a lot of splashes, but this free agency, this offseason, he's really unloaded and went and got guys like Matthew Judon, Jonnu Smith, Hunter Henry, 2 big tight ends right there, Jonnu Smith and Hunter Henry. And it's kind of cool. He went out and got Cam too, which some people were kind of skeptical about whether or not Cam was still going to play and whether he was going to try to get, Marcus Mariota from the Raiders, maybe try to get Jimmy Garoppolo back, draft someone. Listen, he might still draft somebody, but as of right now, it seems like he's kind of got faith in Cam. So that's kind of been interesting to see.
Yeah, I love Belichick. Yeah, I love his philosophy this year because he's kind of switched over to usually they've been the Patriots drafts have been very poor. And so I think the cool thing that you're seeing from Belichick is they're finally realizing that all right, we made some mistakes, but free agency is really where you make up for your draft mistakes. So I think Belichick making up for his draft mistakes, especially at the tight end position. You went from 0 good tight ends on your roster to 2 of maybe the top 10 tight ends in the league. That's a scary threat. And if Cam can be the beginning of the season, we forget with Cam last year, that Seattle game in week 2 and week 1, he was on fire. And then he had COVID. Everyone kind of discounts this. He had COVID and then he never looked the same after that. And so we don't really know that could have been affecting him the rest of the season or whatever. So I actually think with a full offseason, finally adapting to the system, the Patriots beefing up everything around him. They have their 8 defensive starters who opted out last year, something ridiculous coming back. Yeah. This is going to look like a wildly different team, and the expectations are so much lower in Foxborough than they've ever been that I think this just makes for a perfect revenge storm for the Patriots.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think you bring up 2 really good points. With that Cam having COVID-19, and then also the fact that all those starters left and then came back. I think a lot of people really forget about that all those starters that they had left, all their top people left, and then now they're coming back. That's going to be a completely different effect on the team. Also, we can't forget, what receivers really did Cam have, right? I feel like last year it was the running back show for them with James White and Rex Burkhead. That's literally the only targets Cam really had to throw to and play around with. Outside of that, they didn't really have much of anything to work with there on offense. So by adding 2 tight ends, maybe going out and if you're confident in Cam, maybe going out and get a wide receiver in the first round of the draft. I feel like this is a pretty decent wide receiver draft class. So you could probably get one.
It's loaded, Yeah,
you get one on day 2, maybe, to be honest, that can plug in and start. So yeah, and I also think that Bill is kind of a little bit under pressure now because we can't forget. I mean, the Jets now are making moves, right? They're signing a couple people. They got a brand new head coach in Robert Saleh, who I think is going to be pretty good. I like his energy. The Bills obviously won the division this year. They're a very good football team, and we can't forget about the Dolphins. I mean, I feel like Tua's kind of a little bit in the air, just because I feel like there were times last year where he didn't play his best. Yeah. But still, I mean, those are all really good, formidable teams. Well, outside of maybe the Jets, they're all really good, formidable teams. And the Jets could be a formidable team if they make the right moves in the draft.
Yeah, no doubt. And I do have to say, actually, I was slightly disappointed with the Dolphins in this offseason because they were a game away from the play. They had no expectations last year, and they were a game away from the playoffs. And I was kind of slightly disappointed because I thought they were going to build on that nucleus because people want to come play in Miami and stuff. So I thought they were going to build. They didn't really do it. But they're Brian Flores, their coach, does come from the Belichick tree, which they're all through the draft. And I actually understand in this deflated market and stuff, not paying up for premium free agents. I was just surprised that they didn't, they were linked to Aaron Jones in the beginning. I thought a solid back like that would be a good type of signing for them. So I thought they didn't do as much as I thought, but they're still loaded and that division is still loaded.
Yeah, 100%. And again, you bring up another really interesting point, that being the tight budget that the NFL has right now because of the salary cap. I mean, the salary cap now is about 182, I think, 0.5 million, something around there. And that's been really rough. And I think it's been interesting to kind of watch this play out because what we've seen is not a lot of huge contracts. Maybe the teams that can afford it, because we've seen a couple teams offer big contracts, like a team like the Patriots, who can afford having those big contracts because they don't really have big contracts on their teams. But I think it's been really interesting to kind of see all of these little one-year deals passed out. 1 year, $8 million has been I feel like a very common number. 1 year, $10 million. Been a very common number. And I think that's been kind of interesting to see. I think especially with big players that people kind of expected to go somewhere else. Like I know Juju comes to mind, Juju Smith-Schuster.
Yeah.
A lot of people expect him to go somewhere else, and he signed a 1 year deal to stay with the Steelers. So I think that's been kind of interesting to see. Now, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Take it away.
Oh, I was just going to change it a little gears back. If staying in the East part, back over the NFC East, big Giants fan over here. I kind of like what was brewing. Early in free agency, it was very quiet. It was very quiet, and there was some rumblings going on. I always knew we were linked to Kenny Gallaudet and stuff. I think the Leonard Williams re-signing, everyone is a little skeptical because they paid more money than was expected to Leonard Williams, Adoree Jackson, and Kenny Gallaudet, which, first of all, it's not really the fans' money, so I don't know why we're worrying. And proven over and over again this year is that, like you said, the tight budgets and stuff, but the restructuring of contracts. I mean, the Saints were $65 million in debt and cap space early into the year, and they just eliminated that immediately. So I wasn't really worried about the contracts. I think it's more about getting good players because now the Giants we're finally at a point where we could address really any position we want to in the draft outside of probably quarterback or running back. I see I think we're in perfectly set up that our offense was ranked 31st last year without Saquon and Kenny Gallaudet. Now you add two of Saquon's a top 5 running back, probably maybe even the best when he's healthy. Kenny Gallaudet is probably a top 10 receiver. And even if you want in the draft, why not just add to that weaponry group? Because you did just invest in 2 rookie tackles. So if you want Devontae Smith, why not go get him and add another speedster or something like that? And in the division, I think the division is very interesting. Seems like the tides are turning. Now Washington's all loading up too, Curtis Samuel and Fitzmagic, and Dallas is there. I think the tides are turning. Usually we've been talking about Dallas versus Philly. Sounds like Washington versus the Giants with a little mix of Dallas in there. Should be some fun times. It's good when the NFC East is relevant because those are the biggest brands in football.
Yeah, let me tell you what. I think it's been kind of exciting because David Gettleman kind of been doing a good job. And I think people always come at the guy because he's done some questionable things in the past. And listen, I don't know about you. Now, I'm not a Giants fan, so I'm not coming biased here. I kind of like Daniel Jones a little bit. I don't think he's ever going to be. Yeah, I don't think he. I don't know if he has the ability to ever be like a top 5, top 10, right? Yeah. But I think he's going to be a very maybe bottom top 10 if he is able to progress at the biggest ability, like his top ceiling, right? But I think it's going to be really interesting to see how he pans out because I think he's actually a pretty decent quarterback. I think I kind of have the same feelings about Sam Darnold. I don't think Sam Darnold's really terrible. I just think he's in a really bad system, and I think Daniel Jones has just not had a lot of protection, not a lot of really great weapons, and he's kind of been in a weird place these past, 2 years or what have you, with the team kind of being in flux and trading players and getting new players and all that. So it's kind of cool to see the Giants actually making some moves, and I agree. I think the Giants really did make some great moves, especially when it gets to getting someone like Adoree Jackson and Kenny Gallaudet. And I think you're right. I think it's going to be between the Washington football team and the Giants because while the Cowboys did have Dak, I feel like that team is really in a mixed place because I feel like Jerry Jones can't accept the fact that the team needs to improve in certain ways. He just thinks that they're going to be a Super Bowl contender because he can just throw money at people and go get them, and then they're going to complete the job. And that's not how it works. That's really not how it works. And then when it comes to the Eagles, I mean, that place is a mess after they lost Doug Peterson, Carson Wentz. Who even knows if this next coach is going to want to keep Jalen Hurts because that felt like it was Doug Peterson's move. So that's all up in the air. But you're right. I'm really excited to see what the Giants are going to do. And I remember I was talking to my friend last year who was a Giant fan, and I told him, I said, listen, I really think the Giants are actually, out of all the teams I would pick in that division, I would say the Giants are my most likely to be a contender in the next 2 to 3 years. I feel like they could be really good if they get all the pieces to work out, they make the right moves, which it seems like they're doing. And I think they could do a really good job and actually compete in the next 2 to 3 years, especially when they get more comfortable with the coach. When they play like Daniel Jones maybe matures a little bit more, I think they're going to be a really, really good team. So that's really
cool. I do too. I think we get caught up sometimes in the NFL and looking at like seasons in whole. But if you really break it down, we were talking about 2 young quarterbacks there, like Daniel Jones and Sam Darnold. If you look in the second half of the season, Daniel Jones, the last second half, he went 4-3, the best span of his career by far. And his turnovers, which is the problem for everyone, he only had 1 interception and 1 fumble in that span. So his turnovers were 2 turnovers in 7 games. If he can cut down on the turnovers, the sky's the limit for the Giants. And I think one of the sneaky parts of this game is like, well, Daniel Jones first, that people don't like him because he's one of the most unexciting people in football. Like he doesn't have much of a great personality or anything. So like everyone remembers him for the tripping incident in Philly, which is a shame for him.
Yeah.
But it's also a shame for me as a Giants fan because like people forget it wasn't like a 5-yard rush. He ran 85 yards before he fell. He was on pace for the longest run in NFL history by a quarterback. His top speed was like 21 miles per hour on that, which was the highest recorded by a quarterback ever too. So he has very underrated athleticism, which is perfect for that division. And I think you are right that like Jerry Jones has been the general manager in Dallas since he took over the team in like the 90s. And there's a reason they haven't won a Super Bowl. It's because he's been the general manager the whole time and he doesn't want to delegate or anything. And then Washington's interesting because our whole lives pretty much, they haven't been very relevant. They once every 5 years will sneak into the playoffs and lose. And their defense is probably entering next season with all the turnover in the NFL, probably the best on paper. And the Giants defense, very underrated. Dallas's only problem is their defense. If they can fix their defense, I mean, their offense was putting up crazy numbers with Dak last year.
Yeah, 100%. I think, again, when it comes to Dak, I think people forget about his abilities too because he was really having an electric year last year until he got that horrible injury. So I think even though I think Dak was a little overpaid, I still think that was kind of a good move for Dallas, and I think he's going to really do a great job. Absolutely. Now, staying with quarterbacks and staying with the whole will they go somewhere, will they won't, I want to bring up Deshaun Watson because that's been in the news a lot lately because now there's up to 16 lawsuits up against him, and he's been called lately as a serial predator. Now, what I want to talk about this is because I feel like, first of all, we have to wait and see what happens before we accuse anything of either side. But I feel like the people are defending Deshaun Watson way too quickly and imagine that he can't do this because I feel like there's this label around Deshaun Watson being like a nice guy, right? Because he does stuff for people, does stuff for charity, and what have you. And I feel like with a situation like this, with all these women coming forward and accusing Deshaun of these things, with 16 different women coming forward, that tells me that this is probably true. Like this is most likely true and this most likely happened. And I feel like, though, too many people are defending him because it's like, oh, well, he's a nice guy. Like I know Deshaun, he wouldn't do that. But I feel like it's very hard to say that because you never know who someone truly is and you never know what their intentions are. And even though they're a big star and a big celebrity, you really don't know what they're doing behind the scenes. So I just wanted to touch on that because I think it's been really important in the news lately. It's been so much about Deshaun Watson because I think for so long we were saying, where's Deshaun Watson going to go? Where is he going to get traded to? Is he going to get traded? Is he going to stay with the team? And now is Deshaun Watson even going to be able to play if this is all true and if he does get accused of doing it, if he does get some kind of jail time or something like that for all these sentences if it's proven to be true. So I just wanted to say and maybe do like a little TED Talk type of thing, I guess. Just I feel like we can't look at him as being a nice guy, right? We have to look at at the facts. And you know what I'm saying? I think that with that many women coming forward, there has to be some proof to these accusations.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think the sad part of these allegations is like if they're proven to be true, then Deshaun Watson is obviously like the serial predator, like he's been labeled. And if they're proven to not be true in any way, then Deshaun Watson has in the biggest public extortion scandal of all time. So either way, it's an ugly scandal to be playing out in the media. And I totally understand that this whole thing. And it's a very odd thing that it's kind of something we've definitely never seen before with like the lawyer of like, we have hard evidence versus we can destroy all your hard evidence. Like you don't have any on Deshaun Watson's side, which somebody's not telling the truth or somebody doesn't have the facts. And it's hard when like, it's hard to tell because right, those 16 women are all represented by the one attorney. So it's hard to tell that like they're all cases are kind of linked together. And I know Deshaun Watson already had like the text messages of one of the 16 wasn't true, which doesn't make all other 15 not true. So we'll have to see what happens. It's a very odd situation and hope it gets resolved quickly for everybody involved.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think the timing on it is kind of crazy as well, just because of how much Deshaun was blowing up in the news and whether he was going to go somewhere or not. And then this came out. So again, I completely agree with you. I hope for both sides involved, this ends as quickly as possible, whether it be in Deshaun's favor or in the other people, into the women's favor. I hope that whatever the truth is, it's ruled completely fairly. And like I said, I think we can't stick with the idea that Deshaun is a nice guy just because we like how he plays and stuff like that. We have to completely take in the fact and say this guy might be a lot worse than we may believe. With that, let's shift over to maybe something a little bit different. Maybe not football. Let's talk about the UFC. I want to talk about a couple things real quick coming up that's kind of exciting. So right before the show, something got announced with the UFC. It's that Khamzat Chimaev is eyeing a return in July. Now, if you don't know, Khamzat Chimaev was like getting really a lot of hype, especially Dana White. And Dana White's a hype man, right? He loves to hype up people. That's why he loves Conor McGregor. He loves the hype that Conor brings. He loves people like Khabib because Khabib is kind of getting more hype and all that kind of stuff. And I think even there's just been so many times where Dana White, I think, loves the next big thing and he wants to make it big because it gives a lot of opportunities to make money off the main cards and from different ticket sales, right? Khamzat Chimaev was supposed to be this next guy. He was supposed to be huge. People thought he was so impressive and he was going to finally get a shot. I think about 2 or 3-ish weeks ago, he was going to finally get a shot to fight somebody with a lot of talent and see what he could do. And then he got COVID, and then he couldn't come over here. And so it kind of got weird after that because then Dana White brought him over, and he was like, "Well, we're going to give him the UFC doctors, and the UFC doctors can take care of him." And then Khamzat sent out, I think, an Instagram, and he was like, "Yeah, I'm never fighting again." And he posted a picture of in the sink there was like blood in the sink, like that he would cough up, that he had COVID. And Dana White was like, "Well, that's not true. He's not going to not play. He might come back. He had COVID and he was frustrated. He was trying to work out, so it made things worse." So that whole like saga with Khamzat has been like kind of in the air. We don't really know what he's going to do. But today it was announced that he's eyeing a return in July. Now it's going to be interesting to see whether or not this actually pans out. I hope so because I think Khamzat can be a really good fighter. But it's going to be interesting to see. And I think Dana White's probably super excited about this, as I had said. But I hope that for Khamzat, he's feeling fully healthy and feels like he's ready to go. Also in UFC news, Stipe Miocic, the champion, is going to be going up against Francis Ngannou, who's the number 1. Yeah. It should be a good fight, a good matchup in UFC 260. It takes place this upcoming Saturday. Saturday the 27th, I believe, is the date, just in case you're watching this after the fight. It's the 27th. And yeah, that should be a really good fight. I think Stipe Miocic, great fighter. Francis Ngannou is also a great fighter. I'd be happy if either of them won. I kind of hope Francis wins a little bit more, just because visibility. He's a little bit younger. I think he can hold the belt for a lot longer than Stipe. Regardless, it should be a good fight. Also in that card, Sean O'Malley is making his return. Now, for those of you who don't know Sean O'Malley, he has like rainbow hair. He's got like a big afro. Sometimes he's putting in like cornrows, and he's got the rainbow hair. And he's like he streams a little bit too and stuff like that on Twitch. Now, he was a little bit of a sensation. And then during the fight, his first really like kind of bigger fight that he fought, I want to say over the summer or in the fall. No, in the fall. He actually like broke his foot or broke a part of his foot or broke his ankle, and then he couldn't fight, and he got beat in that fight. So you didn't really get a good like gauge of like his ability. So I'm hoping that in this fight we kind of get the Sean O'Malley that we were as advertised a couple weeks before that fight when he broke his foot or ankle or what it was. So I hope we kind of get that Sean O'Malley back. But either way, this should be a good card. So if you're looking for something to do on a Saturday night, maybe you can go to your local Buffalo Wild Wings or something, watch the fight safely, of course. But yeah, that should be fun. Or hey, if you want to pay $70 for ESPN Plus type of thing, you could do that. Or listen, I Dana White hates illegal streamers, but you can always do that too, which I'm sure a lot of people do. But should be a good weekend of fighting. Should be a
Yeah.
good time. And hopefully, like I said, Cosmo comes back.
Yeah, I
But
think the
also,
most interesting.
yeah.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I think the most interesting thing about the UFC is that like Dana White's the only person who's not an actual athlete in his sport, who's the biggest figure in his sport. I should always find that interesting. He's always big. I don't think that's bad for the sport by any means either. I think it's great for the sport, and UFC is always interesting because like it's the pettiest sport too. There's so much pettiness, which is awesome. There's so much. It almost feels like the events sometimes are less big than like the weigh-ins and the rounds before and everything leading up to it. It's definitely gaining steam as a sport overall, and it's very interesting to watch.
Yeah, and to kind of go on what you were saying about it gaining steam, I think that COVID has actually been a great thing for the UFC because it was one of the first sports to kind of bounce back right after.
Definitely.
And I think, literally, and Fight Island has been huge. And I think now they're one of the first ones that's going to allow full in-person attendance. I think they're doing that on April 24th in Florida. They're allowing like full attendance at the UFC fight, which is pretty huge. So.
No doubt.
Yeah, so I think UFC, really cool to see where they're going right now. I mean, I feel like more and more people are becoming more and more familiar with some maybe not otherwise known fighters that people the general audience may not have known prior to COVID. And now I feel like a lot of people are kind of learning a little bit more about people like Israel Adesanya, Stipe Miocic, Francis Ngannou, like I had mentioned, of course, Khabib, of course, Dustin Poirier. I think people are learning about these people a little bit more who, to a UFC fan, these are common names, but I feel like to the casual audience, it's becoming a little bit more well-known, which is really cool and super exciting. So that's fun to see. But to talk about other sports that are making some big stuff coming up soon, not only do we have a UFC fight coming up this Saturday, we also have MLB Baseball Opening Day next week. Zach, how are you feeling about that? How are you feeling about that?
Yeah, I'm excited. I think opening day is one of the better days in the baseball calendar because it's one of the only day where you have all the aces lined up against each other. You got, DeGrom and Scherzer. Those could be, an argument's sake. DeGrom's over the last couple of years has just been ascending to the point where it seems like he's secured almost as number one, and somehow he gets better it's like LeBron-ish almost the way he gets better. His fastball is touching 100 on the dot every time he's throwing this time, which just crazy. And, DeGrom and Scherzer opening day, Garrett Cole opening day, Bieber opening day. So the storylines are great in baseball this year with all the changing of the teams. I mean, Lindor in New York should be gold. I mean, especially me as a Mets fan, obviously. But, I think it's good in the sport. The Mets and the Yankees look like two of the top 5 premier teams. The Dodgers and the Padres, it's spread out all over the country. I think it's always good when it's everywhere. And the bigger brands, even though the Mets have been down, they're a New York team. They're a big brand. The Yankees, big brand. The Dodgers, big brand. The Braves are a huge brand lately. Bigger brands are good. It's good for the sport, and the NL East will be a dogfight. There's just all 5 teams have a realistic shot at the playoffs. The AL's a little downish compared to usual with the Rays, so I think this is a great year for the Yankees to finally break their 10-year drought of the World Series appearances, because this would be loaded. But MLB seems to throw some wrinkles in there every year. Who knows? The White Sox look like the real challenger to the Yankees. We'll see. MLB should be a fun season.
Yeah, I agree. And I'll tell you what, I think this type of excitement and all these teams being good, the 2 main New York teams, these big brand teams, 2 New York teams, Yankees and Mets, and then you got, the Dodgers being as good as they are. And then someone like Tatis, I think, really helping out the brand of the San Diego Padres, making them, I feel like, a little bit more of a common name and a common household name around here.
Yeah.
Especially thanks to Tatis. I feel like he's the main reason why.
No doubt.
It's so exciting to see, and I think it's so good for the brand of baseball because baseball has had a lot of trouble over the years being popular. We saw it kind of take a jump, I feel like, in the 90s when all the steroid stuff was happening, and you had the whole battle between Sammy Sosa and Mark McGwire over the home runs and stuff like that. But we kind of took a dip off again, and I feel like there was the whole juice ball scandal going on for the past few years, and there was the Astros scandal. I feel like those things kind of hurt baseball a little bit because I feel like that's always been a problem with baseball is, how do we know that these players are not that they're being honest, but that their talents are honest? Because I feel like there's always been a little bit of tampering in baseball going on, right? But I think it's really awesome for the sport to see so much competition happening and so many good aces on so many big brand teams and so many good players on these big brand teams. It's going to be a lot of fun to see. I'm excited. Yeah. I'm excited for it.
Me too. Very excited.
Now, I want to take this chance. What we're gonna do is transition real quick to Matt's interview with Allie Best, who's the point guard from the Maris women's basketball team. But before I do that, I want to bring up my favorite moment of the week. right? I kind of want to talk about this, and this is a new segment we're kind of thinking about adding. It's kind of fun. And Zach, I know you like this moment a lot too, right?
Yeah, this was great.
Yeah. So let me tell you what it is. So this high school player's hanging out in this gym, right? Playing some basketball. He starts talking trash to this guy. The guy's none other than Brent Scalabrini, who starts giving him trash talk back. So the two of them decide to do what basketball players do and have a one-on-one. Listen, Scalabrini absolutely torched this dude. And you can see the video clip that we're going to show, but you can see he absolutely torched this kid, put it up on, I think he won 11 to nothing. He out-physicaled him, outshot him. He put the moves on. He got hot. It was so cool to see. And I think it just goes to show that even a player who people might regard as not being as good in the NBA can still absolutely start someone who's just an amateur player. And I think we forget that. We're just so quick to be like, oh, this guy's trash. Man, this guy sucks. And I feel like if you make it to the NBA, you're 99% better than every single person on the planet, right? Yeah. Unless they're also in the NBA. So that was a cool video to see.
Yeah, no doubt. The worst player in the NBA would walk into any gym, any YMCA gym, any old man gym, and just absolutely cook people. People don't realize they're professionals. You think, oh, they ride the bench. Yeah, they ride the bench because there's professionals in front of them. You try playing them, not going to end well.
Yeah, and that's always what I said. I feel like in any sport, if you're a bench warmer, you're still pretty good because you made it to the biggest professional level of sports like ever. So pretty cool to see. So there you go. There you have it. The moment of the week, the video of the week, whatever you want to call it. The moment of the week is an appropriate name for it. Favorite thing I saw this week, right? So pretty cool to see. But now what we're going to do is we're going to kick it over to Matt Spirio. He got a chance to interview Allie Best, like I said, from the women's basketball team, the point guard, to talk to her about winning the MAC and going to the tournament. So here you go. Hope you like it. Enjoy.
All right, what's up, guys? I'm Matt Spirio here today with Allie Best of the MAC champion Marist women's basketball team. Allie, how are we doing today?
Good, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing great. So let's go back to about a week ago against St. Peter's. Describe to me what it's like finally winning the MAC championship after coming up short multiple times.
There was definitely a lot of built-up emotion, especially because Will and I, we lost in the championship game twice, and especially our sophomore year, it was a bad loss, and I think that's definitely something we wanted to avenge for ourselves and for our teammates in the past. And this year we just put all our effort into it, and it was an amazing feeling. There's no better feeling than winning that, and to do it with this group of girls was extremely special because everybody sacrificed so much this year and bought in, and it was just a really special moment with a really special group of people.
Yeah, that's awesome. I feel like on a normal year, you kind of have to try to remove yourself from seasons past, but I mean, especially everything that's happened with COVID, I think these two seasons have been very connected. The MAC championship, the tournament getting canceled last year. So what's some of the emotion that played in with all the COVID stuff going on? Tell me how that kind of affected the season as well.
It definitely played a big part in it, especially in the beginning when we couldn't get together and practice right away. I think we had like 9 days of practice before our first game. And we were able to do a little stuff like one-on-one, but it was pretty much kind of that. It was up to you how much you put in. And I think you could tell by our first game that everybody put in a lot and they wanted to be as ready as they could be for the season. And that was a really exciting first game. One, we just haven't played in so long. And I think we caught a lot of people off guard too, which was really exciting. And then just throughout the year, we had to deal with like a lot of moving in order to keep us safe and allow us to keep playing, which we're all extremely thankful for. I think we've moved like 6 or 7 times, and by the end we're like, all right, we can pack up in 20 minutes, like, well, we're ready. But it was just like constantly being ready for the unexpected, having games canceled like a day before, like just finishing a long scout and then finishing practice and be like, oh, game's postponed. It's just hard to like put all your effort into something and then have it move back a little bit. And then going on pause twice was difficult. But again, like all these things, I think made us more resilient throughout the year and made us more grateful for each game that we played, and really helped us buy into each moment and make the most of it. And I honestly think it was like, it just helped us grow together and was a reason why we were so successful this year.
Yeah, these are certainly not any conditions that you would expect to play in on a normal year, especially you as a senior. I mean, you've been doing this for 3 years now. All of a sudden, everything changes. So, I mean, that's awesome. All right, so now win the MAC. Now we're going to San Antonio. What's it like down there right now? How is it?
It's amazing. It's a lot warmer than Poughkeepsie, so we definitely value our time outside when we're walking over to get tested or over for practice. It's just really exciting to be here and being a part of March Madness. Like, we were watching some of the men's games last night, and it's just exciting to be a part of something you've been watching for so long and something that's so big in the sport you love. And it's cool to see all the other teams here and all the stuff that goes into organizing this tournament. And we had our first practice yesterday, so we were able to start prepping a little bit and getting ready for Louisville, which again is extremely exciting to be playing such a successful team, such a well-rounded team, and just giving them our best shot.
Yeah, that's awesome. What kind of COVID procedures the guys have you going through there?
So the first 2 days that we were here, we were quarantining in our room. So we only were allowed to come out to get tested. And now we are able to practice and watch film together and kind of prep for games together. Other than that, we're pretty much in our rooms all day, which is helpful in getting schoolwork done because we haven't been back in a while. So that's honestly probably good for us, so we aren't hanging out all the time and procrastinating with that. And all the meals are delivered and just in and out quick with practice times. We're getting tested every day, and then we get our results right away, so we know if we're good to go for practice. It's just a lot of things in order to keep us all safe and to make sure this tournament is able to complete.
Yeah, that's a lot of good stuff there. I've been seeing on Twitter, it's been kind of trending over the last 24 hours, some of the disparity in the men's and women's weight rooms at their respective tournaments. From your perspective, what have you seen going on with that?
From my perspective, and I think from our whole team's perspective, this is the first time we're in this situation. So it's something we're extremely thankful for. I've never experienced any of this, so this is all new to me, and it's all really exciting, and I couldn't be more thankful for all the NCAA is giving us.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's interesting. Yeah, I mean, like you said, you guys have never been here before, and it's not necessarily you don't always have to complain. Sometimes it's good to be appreciative. That's awesome. Yeah. So win or lose against Louisville, how are we going to remember this Marist Red Foxes team versus years past?
I think the thing that will always stand out about this team is what we had to go through dealing with COVID. But I think the biggest thing for me is I've personally never been a part of a team that believed in each other so much. And I think that is the biggest reason why we've been so successful this year. From day one, the odds were against us with how much we lost, what we were going through this season, having so many underclassmen and freshmen that didn't know the system yet. And we kind of fed into that, and we're like, no one thinks we are going to be able to be MAC champs, and we loved being the underdog. We're like, because people have been expecting us to do big things the last 3 years, and that it's nice being in that position where people respect you. Not to say people didn't respect us this year, but just where they expect you to be great. And this year it was kind of thought of as a rebuilding year before the year started. And we bought into that, and we didn't want to be that. We didn't want this season to be just because of that. And we wanted to give everything we possibly could to win. And we thought we had the talent to do that. And we thought we had the attitude and work ethic to do that. But I know for Will and I, we don't want this to be our last game. And I think everybody on the team is buying into that too. And again, it's the same thing. Not a lot of people expect us to win. We're playing a fantastic Louisville team. But that's kind of been the position we've been in all year. So, we believe in ourselves, and we know we have a big mountain to handle, but, why not us? Upsets happen every year, and we're going to do everything in our power to be the team that can do it.
Yeah, no, I love that mentality. That's why not us. That's awesome. You talk about some of those underclassmen. Last time Marist, the women's team, actually won the MAC, they won 4 or 5 in a row. You think you guys are leaving the team in good hands even after this season goes on? Yeah,
absolutely. And I think you can see that by just who stepped up this year. Everybody stepped up. Every single person on the team had to play a different and a bigger role than they did last year, and every single person delivered, including the freshmen. And I give so much credit to just honestly all the underclassmen, juniors included, because for Will and I, this was our last year. So of course we were going to buy in. We're why wouldn't we? But for everybody, that's not the case. And they bought in just as much as we did and made it so easy for us to lead, and all stepped up and got the most out of themselves. And it was extremely special to see. And if they can handle the adversity of this season, they can handle the adversity of any season. And I'm really excited to see what they do.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, I could tell they've got a great leader here in you that's kind of prepared them for what's to come going forward. Allie, I really appreciate your time. Incredibly humble. This was great speaking to you. Wish you the best of luck against Louisville on Monday.
Thank you very much. Nice meeting you.
You as well.
Welcome back to another segment of Prove Your Point. Today we are joined by Matt Spirio. And hey, his face is looking kind of familiar. I think you just saw him a couple seconds ago. He's talking to Allie Best. Matt, listen, you did a fantastic job on that segment. Great job, great interview. It was great to hear from Allie Best after they won the MAC. Fantastic job.
Thanks, Connor. I really appreciate it.
Anytime, Matt. For you, anytime. We're also joined by Nick Vete, who's looking to find some redemption today after taking that loss last week. Oh, and should I mention, Nick is 1-1 and Matt is 1-0. So a little unbalanced there in the rankings and the amount of time they've competed on this show, but both are seeking to get a win today on Prove Your Point. So, gentlemen, is it all right if I just kick things off and get started, or do any of you have a pre-match word, I guess? Is any of you, anybody, no? Any word to mark our something on the level of start your engines, I guess, something of that caliber?
To be honest with you,
hey, I'm going up against. I'm 1-1 going up against a great champion in Matt. I'm looking forward to it. Looking forward to the competition.
Yeah, I was just gonna say I've never lost, and I don't plan on doing it today. To be honest with you,
Matt, those are some bold words. And Nick, I like the energy, and I'm kind of pulling for you already. I don't like this arrogance coming from Matt's corner of the ring. But listen, I'm not going to hold it against you. All right, so if you gentlemen don't mind, I'm going to get right into it. And you know what, Nick, since you had the courtesy of not being too arrogant when we started, you're going to get to go first, if that's all right. So here we go. First question is, what NFL team has had the best free agency so far? Nick, take it away. You're on the clock.
To this point, it has been the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I mean, if you look at everything that they have done to this point in NFL free agency so far, they've restructured Tom Brady's contract. It's now a very team-friendly deal. They were, as a result, able to bring back Chris Godwin on the franchise tag, Rob Gronkowski in free agency, two of Brady's top targets. On the defense, they've got Ndamukong Suh back. They've got Levante David back. They brought back Shaq Barrett. And then on the offensive line, they're also going to keep Brady upright. They brought back Aaron Stinney. They brought back Donovan Smith. They've made a lot of key moves, not moves to bring in guys, but moves to keep guys in free agency on a roster that just won the Super Bowl. They're returning all 11 of their defensive starters from last season as well. And on the offensive side of the ball, they've returned 10 of their 11 starters from last season, still with the potential to bring back Antonio Brown or Leonard Fournette as well. And then you look over to the Giants or other teams in free agency, and the Giants have made some positive moves to this point, but at the same time, they've still got holes to fill. They still need help on their offensive line. They could still use an additional pass rusher on their defense. The Bucs have a Super Bowl roster where they just retained a majority of their starters. The Buccaneers have had the best free agency so far.
Well, that's an interesting take, because I feel like you wouldn't think the Buccaneers just because of the year that they had and coming off the Super Bowl. I wouldn't immediately think Buccaneers because what did they really need to add? But the fact that they were able to retain so many of their players that people might have thought would have walked away, I think was very impressive, and that's a really good point you make. All right, Matt, you ready? Can you take it away? Are you ready? Go right ahead.
Oh, I'm ready, man. I mean, it's great that Nick brought up the Giants because that's exactly who I think has had the best offseason. We'll start. They franchise tag, re-sign Leonard Williams, their big acquisition from last year. That's awesome. Their only major loss is Dalvin Tomlinson on the D-line. They have Dexter Lawrence, some of those hogs up front that are going to replace him. They'll be just fine. After James Bradbury's breakout season, we'll go bring in Adoree Jackson to be our number 2 corner when he's been a number 1 for the first 4 years of his career. He's 25 years old, and we signed him for 3 years. Come on, it's a great signing. And then we'll move to the other side of the ball. Kenny Gallaudet, the splash free agent signing of the offseason. Bring him in for 4 years. I mean, the Giants have set themselves up with bringing in premium talent on the offensive side of the ball to go take, with their early draft picks, blue chip caliber positions. In past, they've taken luxury picks, tight ends, running backs, receivers. They don't have to do that anymore. They can take offensive tackles, edge rushers, positions that are going to take them from a mid-level team to a top-level team in the NFC, and that's all set up by their free agency. Maybe Tampa Bay did a better job of retaining some of their free agents, but the Giants have set themselves up in free agency to have an even better draft.
Let me tell you what. That's a good argument. I like how you brought up the two big splashes that they made, Dory Jackson being one of them and Kenny Gallaudet. And I'm going to tell you what, I was talking some trash before, Matt, and I really was, and saying how I was going to be biased. I wasn't going to be biased against you, and I'm going to tell you what, I'm not. And I'm going to give you this first round because, Nick, you made a good argument of how good the free agency has been for the Buccaneers. But let me tell you what, I think that the splashes that the Giants made were great. Really, really, really great, actually. And I think they were a lot more crucial to the team's success moving forward. Not to say what's going on with the Bucs isn't crucial. Not a part of that. But I think the Giants really had to do something to be a contender, and I think that's what they tried to do this offseason. So, Matt, you're going to get this first round. So, moving on to round 2. Which Cinderella team has the best chance to continue their NCAA tournament run? Matt? Since Nick was able to go first the first round, now it's up to you. Go ahead and take it away.
I mean, the answer, it's everyone's favorite Cinderella, back again. Looking to go even further this time, it's Loyola Chicago. I mean, did you watch the game against Illinois? They didn't look like a Cinderella team. The game wasn't close. They dominated one of the best teams in the country. They beat the brakes off of them. And I know what Nick's going to say. He's going to come in here and be like, oh, Syracuse, Jim Boeheim, he's been here before. He's done this. He's got the experience. How about having some players who have Final Four experience? Cameron Krutwig is an elite college basketball player. He's been here before. He played on that stage. Not to mention, Lucas Williamson was also a freshman on that team. He's here. He had 14 against Illinois. The rest of their lineup, they could step in. They could shoot the ball. They could defend. They're the number 1 defense in the country. They're well coached. And lastly, they got Sister Jean. Connor, are you about to pick against divine intervention? I'm not trying to pander here, but are you about to pick against God? Come on, I know you're better than that.
Hey, listen, let me tell you what. Sister Jean, I mean, she's a miracle worker. Let me tell you what. She's a whisperer, a basketball whisperer, right? I don't know how she does that. I don't know how she makes these things happen, but hey, you're right. She's a divine worker, a miracle worker, a worker of God. So Sister Jean, I don't know. The only way that I will go against Sister Jean is if Nick is able to match that divine power that she has with his argument. So Nick, why don't you go ahead and take it away and see if you can match it?
I will try and match that, and I'm going to match it with the Syracuse Orange. They are a team that at this point, we could talk about Illinois like you did with Loyola, but Syracuse has also knocked off 2 very good teams as well in this tournament, in West Virginia and San Diego, in their first 2 games. In those 2 games, they shot 50% from the field and 45% from three-point land, offensively playing some of their best basketballs of the season. And I mean, I will talk about Jim Boeheim because, frankly, he's had that zone defense instilled in Syracuse for so long now. And that's a defense where when you go up against non-conference opponents, it frankly gives teams trouble. And when you talk about how I think all the ACC teams are out of the tournament at this point, they're just going to be going up against non-conference foes. Houston in the next round, they're going to continue to give teams problems with that zone and be able to hold them to low point totals while also still having offensive weapons. And what's the main thing, aside from divine interest, that you need as a Cinderella team? You need a cold-blooded killer who's able to score the basketball. That is Buddy Boeheim. He is going to come in here. He's already had a great tournament so far, put up 30 points and 25 points respectively in his first 2 games. In the month of March alone, he shot 53% from the field, 48% from 3. He can go up with any of the best guards in the country, and that combined with Syracuse's defense will be enough for them to continue their Cinderella run.
Wow. I'll tell you what, I think I said, Nick, you'd have to match it. And I'm afraid to say that you did. I think I'm going to have to give you this round. I hate to choose against Sister Jean, but man, the stats you're given, the information you're providing about the defense, I think it's a little too hard to ignore. And I think Loyola can only ride on that miracle energy brought about by Sister Jean for so long, right? For so long. I think Syracuse, what they're actually putting on the court, a little bit better than what I think Loyola Chicago could do in the long run. So that's why I think, Nick, I'm going to have to side with you here. I think the power of Syracuse for the Cinderella run, I think is just a little too strong. So guess we found ourselves in the final round, didn't we, gentlemen? We're about to play for all the chips right now. Are you ready? So, Nick, you kicked this one away, so I think you might as well take it from here. You might as well take this last round since you're the one who started it all. Let's go for it. Oh, and
all right,
let me actually state the question real quick because I didn't do that. Which currently injured star is going to have more pressure when they return from injury, Joel Embiid or LeBron James? So take it away.
LeBron James is going to have much more pressure when he gets back from his injury. Prior to him even going down, the Lakers were already sputtering. They were 7-14 in their stretch without Anthony Davis. They fell to 4th in the Western Conference, which at that point is only 4.5 games ahead of the Dallas Mavericks in the 8th position. So very quickly, with a couple losses, they could be looking at a pretty low spot in this Western Conference with a lot of ground to cover without LeBron James at that start. And then you flip the script over to teams in the Eastern Conference, and specifically talking about Joel Embiid and the 76ers. They're a team that has a comfortable 11-game cushion right now over the 9 seed in that playoff spot. They've still got Ben Simmons there, who, without Joel Embiid, has gone 5-1 so far. And not to mention, they also have Tobias Harris, who has been playing some of his best basketball in a long time, currently averaging 23.6 points per game without Joel Embiid in the lineup. If that can continue, if Ben Simmons can guide the ship, they'll have plenty of ground. They'll have plenty of a lead in the Eastern Conference, for when Joel Embiid gets back. Compare that to LeBron James, who's going to have to make up a lot of ground, win a lot of games towards the end of the season when he gets back. There's going to be a lot of pressure on LeBron James to be able to do that.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I could definitely see that. There's going to be a lot of pressure on King James to see if he can come back, bounce back, and get the Lakers to be where they need to be. But, Matt, I want to hear your argument. I want to know why you think Joel Embiid is the one who's going to be under more pressure. So why don't you go ahead and take it away?
I mean, it's pretty simple. Joel Embiid was on pace to win the MVP, had the 76ers in first place in the East before he went down. And he has the most pressure on him. The Lakers don't win a championship or they don't play well. We're gonna blame some of these injuries. We're gonna be like, oh, Anthony Davis was hurt, all these other things, all these other factors, as we always do. LeBron James shares a part of this pressure with another superstar. I love Ben Simmons, but he's not Anthony Davis. It's all on Embiid to get the Sixers at least to 6 or 7 games against Brooklyn in Eastern Conference Finals. Otherwise, fingers are going to be pointed, decisions are going to be made, and we might be looking at a very different 76ers team next year if Embiid does not come back at a very high level. And it's not easy to do coming off a knee injury. It's not easy for him to step back in and immediately come back to playing the basketball that he was. But he does not have the people around him the same way LeBron does to fall back for a little bit, take some of that pressure off. He has to go immediately, or else the Sixers are going to be in trouble.
Man, oh man. Man, oh man. You guys gave me something to think about here. Something pretty serious to think about. And I don't know. This might be one of the toughest decisions I've had to make on Prove Your Point, because let me tell you what, you guys both did prove your point. Listen, I feel like LeBron is going to be under a lot of pressure, right? I think he is. You know, I think a lot of people like to come at Bron and blame him for when something happens. I mean, remember how many times we've seen it, how many times people want to say, oh, LeBron should have taken the shot at the end of the game. We saw it twice, but he decided to pass the ball. I think one of them was recently this year with Alex Caruso, right? And Alex Caruso ended up like missing the game-winning shot. And a lot of people always tend to blame Bron in situations like that. So are they going to blame him if they don't make it to another chip this year? I think maybe so. Now, the Joel Embiid argument is very good too, because listen, I think Joel Embiid has been having an amazing season. He's probably the main reason for the Sixers' success, and you can't ignore that. But I think what comes in here is the fact that if Joel Embiid comes back, right, he doesn't play as well as he was, people are going to say, oh, it's okay, right? Joel Embiid got hurt, and that's why. But regardless, he had an MVP season, and he showed that he's an elite player. He shows that you need to trust the process, right? I think that's what it's going to prove. Even if he doesn't come back at 100%, people are going to always say that. Now, if LeBron comes back, LeBron doesn't do as well, people are saying, well, that's because LeBron's getting old. That's because LeBron's starting to become a scrub. That's because LeBron relies on everyone else on his team to do the job for him. He's going to rely on all these people around him. And you know what? That's why I think LeBron is under more pressure here. And that's why I think I'm going to have to give Nick this win, because let me tell you what, like I said, they're going to both be under a lot of pressure, but I think there's going to be that saving grace of the fact that Joel has played such a good season, right? He's played such a good year, and I feel like that's going to be something people are going to look to and say, oh, well, he's at least he did that. At least he did that, so everything else kind of wasn't on him. I think LeBron, on the other hand, the opposite would happen. All the blame would go on LeBron. So, Nick, congratulations. You got your redemption this week. You got your win Matt, you fall to 1-1, but that's okay. That's all right because I know you're going to get a win next time. So here's what I'm going to do. Matt, listen, you could take the first the loser's decree, I guess, and say how you feel, right? And then I'm going to give the mic over to Nick, and Nick, you can make your closing remarks for this segment. But Matt, go ahead, take it away. Tell me how you feel after this. It's kind of a tough loss, but I know, like I said, I know you're going to bounce back. But tell me what's going on in your mind.
I got two things to say.
Yeah.
First of all, today's Peyton Manning's birthday. We've been here. We lose. Sometimes you lose big games. That's okay. We get that. We're fine. Second, Connor, I think you need to go to confession for what you just did to Sister Jean. You need to repent your sins, and you need to think about what you've done. Otherwise, Nick, I have nothing against you. Congratulations.
You know what? I think you're right. I think I'm gonna have to go spend some time with God or spend some time in the church or something, because I do feel like in my heart I've committed some sort of sin by going against Sister Jean. Because I mean, if I learn anything from this tournament, it's never bet against Sister Jean. So watch them go ahead and win it all now because I said I didn't believe in them. But you know what? That's all right. That's all right. I still think she's awesome, and I actually hope Loyola Chicago does well. And Matt, listen, you gave great arguments, and I like the energy that you bring with that Peyton Manning shirt. I tell you what, it wasn't a good luck charm though. Well, it wasn't. I'm sorry. All right, Nick, you want to give the closing statement here?
Yeah, I mean, Connor, thanks. Matt, thanks for the kind words, and you had me sweating there for a little bit, but I will say you gave me that arrogance at the start. You came in with an undefeated record, but I'm leaving here with a better winning percentage. So that's all I have to say.
Wow. Nick, great. I love that comment. You leaving here with the winning record, and that's certainly what you are doing. So, gentlemen, thank you so much for joining the show tonight and being a part of this game show again. I hope you guys had a great time. I know I had a great time. And I'm excited to see you guys come back here again. Nick, I'm excited to see you continue. Maybe get yourself a little run here. Maybe you go on a little run. And Matt, I want to see you bounce back. Okay, next time you're on here, I want to see you bounce back. Maybe get a dub. Okay, you gave great arguments tonight, but Nick at the end just kind of edged you out a little bit. So everyone, thank you so much for this segment. And now we're going to kick it back and talk about Marist sports and Marist Centerfield and Marist Centerfield stories. So thank you so much for joining us for Prove Your Point. All right, everyone, welcome back. I hope you enjoyed that little segment there of Prove Your Point. That was a whole lot of fun. To see those guys go back and forth. And Nick took it. He had a strong performance, I have to say. Zach, what do you think? You think Nick had the stronger performance there?
Oh,
he did a good job.
Yeah, Nick definitely deserved to win. Send Matt home with a loss for once.
Yeah, for once. Yeah, I know. Nick got the bounce back. 2-1 now. 2-1. He's coming after you. You're next. I think you're next on his list. You beat him last week.
Might have to be.
Yeah. All right. Well, now let's take a chance to talk about Marist sports as we always do before closing out. So, Nick, I know the Marist women's team. They won the MAC, right? But maybe tell me what happened to them when they went to the tournament.
Yeah, so the Marist women obviously made it to the NCAA tournament for the first time since 2014 and start back in the MAC tournament. The two previous MAC tournaments, obviously it was canceled last year, which was a bummer because they looked like they had a team that could make the tournament. The two previous years, they fell short in the MAC championship game. But this year, the Marist women's team happened to win the MAC championship game, and Just Win would undersell what they did. They trounced St. Peter's 69-30 in the championship game. And then they made it to the tournament where they were probably underseeded a little bit, which was unfair. And they drew their 15 seed. They had to play the 2 seed Louisville, one of the better teams. And they gave them a game for the first half. They were winning for most of it before Louisville pulled away in the second half. So they fell just short, but it was a pretty successful season for Marist. Just 4 losses, 18-4 on the year. Pretty good for the school. First tournament appearance in 2014. And they have a good core group that they'll look to build on in the future.
Yeah, I mean, I think they did get a little underseeded. I mean, but regardless, they against the number 2 seed, I think with that first half performance that they have, it was really impressive, and we have to give them a lot of credit. And they won the MAC, so that was awesome. So good job, girls. Great job.
Absolutely.
So awesome to see you guys do that. But yeah, I mean, it's super hard to go up against a team like Louisville, who's like absolutely fantastic. But
yes, big power team. It's a good fight.
Huge power team, good fight that the girls put up, and I think they're going to be good for the next few years to come, like you said, because we have a very young team with a really good core.
Yeah.
But, I also know that the Lacrosse is playing right now, right? So do you think you can tell me something, maybe give me something about the women's team and then give me something about the men's team? What's going on?
Yeah, absolutely. So the Marist women's lacrosse team was picked 4th in the MAC this season, which raised some eyebrows because they thought Marist was much better than that. And, of course, right away, Marist goes and proved this, starting 2-0, including an upset win over Macville Monmouth, who was picked higher than them, obviously. So that was a pretty cool thing. Both the men's and the women's team so far have been impacted by our COVID pauses and stuff. They've had some games canceled and stuff. So the Marist women are just 2-0. The Marist men also started their season back on March 6th, a couple weeks ago, and they won a 15-11 over Detroit Mercy in their first game. And they're also had some COVID pauses. So we won't get to see them again until March 27th, Saturday. So it'll be cool to see the women and the men back in the field. But, I mean, it doesn't matter how many games in. They're both undefeated, and that's good for us.
Yeah, it is. But it's a good time to be, I think, a Red Fox fan right now.
Absolutely.
Or to be a Red Fox. Let's go Red Foxes. Good
the
stuff.
Marist men basketball team better than they've been ever almost. Since their turning appearances way back. It's cool time to be Red Fox. Sports are booming. The Foxes.
Sports are booming. Let me tell you that they are, and it's gonna be cool to see maybe how like they pan out over the next few months. I know the pause is kind of messing things up right now, but yeah, let's keep watching these teams because it's exciting stuff. And like you said, good time to be a Red Fox fan.
Absolutely.
Well, that finishes our segment today for Marist Center Field. That finishes our segment today for halftime on the Hudson. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us today, hanging out with us in our dorms, as I said a couple of times. So maybe this made you guys feel a little bit more connected to us, your hosts, right? Because you got a chance to see where we're coming from, we're coming live at you from. So we hope you enjoyed the show. Zach, great job tonight. You did a fantastic job. I hope you had fun.
Thank you. Absolutely. Every time.
Yeah, great. I'm glad to hear it. And we're excited to see you guys back on here next time on Halftime on the Hudson. Peace.